Welcome to Local Gods. My name is Marco Liu.
And I'm James Han.
And today we're joined with Vivian Chan, fashion designer, entrepreneur. I think first off the bat, in just doing research about your brand and who you are, I realized that there's actually quite a few Vivian Chans. I don't know if you were aware of your competitors or your doppelgangers, but
Wait, who?
it's really interesting, right? Because I think with your name being a very elegant name, but also a somewhat common name.
Yeah.
That's kind of an issue with a lot of Asian American designers, right? Because there's Alexander Wang,
Yeah.
Jason Wu, Philip Lim.
Vera
I
Wang.
feel like, Vera Wang is a little unusual, I would say. But for the most part, I think I probably know two Jason Wu's. I know at least 3 Alexander Wang.
Really?
Yeah. So who is Vivian Chan?
I am a Taiwanese American, first generation, born in Taiwan, immigrated here when I was 6. My dad is Cantonese. My mom is Taiwanese. I feel very proud to be both. And I grew up in Arcadia ever since moving here, and now I'm still here, and I am happily married with 2 kids.
2 kids.
Yes.
How old are your kids?
4 and 2.
Wow. So they're a handful.
Dang, a
Yes.
mom of young
But
kids.
I love it. I love it. I love
Dang.
it. They're such
Honestly,
a big part of me. Yeah.
Wow. I'm still blown away you're a mom.
Really?
Yeah. Dang. Mom's
Asian
still looking
don't
fly.
Man. Yeah.
Dang.
Well, when
Respect.
COVID happened and I had to postpone my wedding, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have kids. I'm gonna just jump to the next thing on the list.
Tell us more about that, because I think a lot of people's weddings and other special celebrations were postponed by COVID. What was that all about? How did you navigate that?
Well, I actually didn't get into wedding, or I didn't publicly share that I was doing bridal until after COVID.
Oh.
During COVID, I really switched gears. I put a pause on creating collections and manufacturing. I couldn't travel anymore. At the time before COVID, I was going to China maybe every other month for work. And then when COVID happened, I actually focused a lot on masks. So my dad is
Smart
in
pivot.
patent and trademark. So I actually was working with him and coming up with mask designs that, was functional, comfortable. But of course, since I have the fashion background, I wanted something that you can stand out in, but also you can still look good in, can match with your clothes. So there was actually, so during that time, I just focused a lot on the mask. And then when I launched it, it actually took off. I think we were one of the first when people saw something, it's a fashionable mask that they could wear. And then I did a video where I had outfits and I made masks, sample masks out of the remnants of the pieces.
Oh.
So then it was a full matching look. And that kind of went viral on TikTok, at least. At the time, TikTok was just taking off.
Yeah.
And then from there, people would just buy masks. So during the COVID time, I was really kind of just selling masks. And it really was, I was just grateful to be able to survive, to be honest,
time.
as a small business.
Wow.
And that our mask was able to gain traction. And in that way, I was able to provide a different sense of, uplift during that time. So that was kind of the COVID time and what we did.
Wow. And how long have you been designing as a whole?
I've had my brand since 2013. We launched December 2013. We went public, but we were planning and I was, doing all of it the prior year before in 2012. And that was when I graduated. So right out of college, I pretty much started my brand. But I didn't learn how to sew until college. And that was when it really opened up my creativity. And studying abroad in Paris and London was what established my voice as a designer. But in terms of just my relationship with clothes, I grew up with it. I feel like it's all I know, because even when we were in Taiwan, my mom had a clothing store in Taichung. And we lived right upstairs. So my memory of childhood is just helping women pick out clothes. Helping my mom, and she loved being in that environment. Our relationship is so much about shopping, clothes, what we wear, my entire family. And so, just growing up in that environment, it really stuck with me. So I feel like I've just always grown up with clothes. And my mom is such a big part of it too. And so it just stuck with me. And then learning how to sew kind of just opened up that creative my creativity to that world.
What type of pieces were at your mom's store? Like, what was the aesthetic that you were kind of growing up with?
To be honest, I don't even remember. I feel like I have more of a visual of the environment of the store, kind of where she sat, where the fitting room was, where the clothes were hanging. My mom is someone, she traveled to Hong Kong to buy a lot of her pieces, and she would bring them back, and she would always handpick them. And she would always tell me, a lot of times when she goes shopping, the owner would be like, oh, this is what's trending. Everyone's buying this. And my mom would never listen to that. If she didn't like it, she wouldn't buy it for her store.
Wow.
She would go with what she loved. And that I applaud her for that, especially during that time, and so she was never afraid to be different or to do something different. She always followed her heart and what she believed in. So yeah, that was a very memorable childhood. And
Is that something you reference often? Your experience seeing your mom at the shop? Are there things you remember, like, oh, her always sticking to her gut about pieces, or the way she serviced or offered customer service? Like, what do you reference all the time in your work?
I always draw back to that. I feel like it took me some time to get to where I am now. When I started the brand, I was so young. So I felt like I had to do it how everyone else was doing it, at least at the time. It was like how to, you go by collections, and then you have to grow in this collection and do that. But I would always think back to my mom of like, okay, the root of it, like, what am I passionate about in the midst of all of this, all of this hustle? Because once we launched, it's just it felt like we were constantly trying to keep up. It was just like one thing after the other. It's like you launch a collection, it's like, okay, I have to think about the next one. And then when you're doing that one, then there's the next one. And it's just kind of been nonstop. And so now that we're in bridal and evening wear, everything is made to order now. So I really get to kind of go back to my childhood of just, I have clients who will make appointments. They come over to my studio, and I really get that personal one-on-one experience, which I really, really love, because I get to personally get to know this client. I get to hear their story. And because, wedding is like one of the biggest moments of your life. Yeah. And so I get to hear about what they're looking for, what they want. And I get to, hopefully, if they pick Vivian Chan, then I get to design something for them that is the start of this like new chapter of their life. So it really brings me back to just the memory of like my mom and me being there with her and helping clients. So it was always just, clients first, really listening wholeheartedly to what they want. And even sometimes maybe they don't know what they want.
Yeah, I figured most of the time.
Exactly. They don't. They come in, and I have like a very distinct process. It's like I'll let them kind of go off on their own. It's like they look around and grab whatever stands out to them. And then as they try things on, that's when it really comes out. It's like the way they look at themselves in the mirror will be different if they wear something that that they feel good in. And so immediately I kind of, I make note of that. And I was like, okay, maybe she doesn't even realize it. I'm like, okay, she feels good in this. You can tell her eyes light up.
Oh, you're paying attention to their body language.
There's pay attention to body.
Oh, interesting.
Pay attention to their body language. And then from there, I slowly kind of make recommendations. Like, oh, why don't you give this a try? Let's try this with this. And you kind of just have to be quick on your feet of like, maybe you let them try something and they're not responding as well. Then you got to be quick. It's like, okay, why don't we try it this way? And I feel like it has to be like a very honest, authentic experience so that they know I'm not just trying to sell them something. Like I am, in the long
at the end of the day, yes. Feed your kids.
But right? I think in the root of it, it's like,
I love it.
Yes, you want them to love it, and they need to feel good in their own skin. So it's like they're putting something on, but it's also putting who they are on so that whoever they are can be showcased through this garment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I never do this on the podcast, but I actually made sure I took down some of the people that our audience or your audience might know that you've dressed. So just going off a few names, Michelle Yeoh, Rupi Kaur, Jeannie Mai, Sherry Cola, Ariana Grande, some of you might have heard of her, Kendall Jenner, Gina Rodriguez, Sharon Stone, J-Lo, Ava DuVernay, Savannah James, Gina Rodriguez, Rachel McAdams, Ali Mackey.
LeBron's wife, Savannah?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Savannah
I just
James,
registered that.
Christine Koh, Anna Faris, Yalin Chang, Kathleen Sutherland. At this point, it's like, I don't know how many big names are not on this list, but
Aw.
like, how would you describe the experience of dressing these people where, you know, people are paying attention to their lives, to their fashion sense and all that? And you are, just like you're part of curating any customer's experience, for these particular clients, you are part of their catalog. You're part of their overall look. How's that feel? What does that mean?
It never gets old in terms of like the feeling of being able to create something so special for one individual. And my goal is always for them to feel celebrated in when they wear my designs. And so, I mean, it's honestly, there's a big, you know, some of the big, like Kendall Jenner, Ariana Grande, J-Lo, we've had the, you know, honor of being able to see my designs on them through the PR agency that I was at.
Great.
And even with that, it's like, you know, during that period, a few years where they represented our brand, it's still, you know, the stylist will pull pieces. This is the process. The stylist will go to the agency. They have a specific event and they'll pull pieces from a lot of designers. They do a fitting with the celebrity and then they decide, okay, for this occasion, this is the outfit for this occasion. So the fact that we got picked, like, you know.
That's even more gratifying.
Yeah.
Among a sea of like all the, wow.
Exactly.
I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah. So it's like, but we never obviously get to encounter them. We just kind of get the photo and email after. It's like, hey, you know, Kendall Jenner just wore
That's
your
badass.
outfit for, you know, her vacation on the boat. It's like, what? That's great.
That's cool. That's my stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
With your name on it.
Yes.
So
in that sense,
exciting.
it's just, it's very exciting. It definitely built a lot of credibility for the brand. But there are some women on the list, like Michelle Yeoh. You know, I had the pleasure of working with her when she was filming for Brother's Son.
Wow.
So
okay.
we created a series of custom looks. I was able to work with the costume designer there, and just the whole experience was, honestly, it was incredible. Just because Michelle Yeoh is someone, I think that one hit really deep.
Yeah.
That
Icon.
milestone specifically. Not only it's like she's such an icon, but also, you know, we immigrated here because of my grandpa. And she would have been someone that my grandpa actually knew.
Wow.
Whereas like a lot of, you know, the other names, it's like my grandpa doesn't really know who they are. But Michelle Yeoh, it's like, he knows who she is, you know, and my parents do. And like all of my relatives in that sense. So I think that really hit home. I'm just like, oh, wow. Like I feel so proud to be able to work with such an iconic woman who stands for so much, who's making such big moves, just within, you know, within the Asian community and in like a global, you know, standpoint as well. And so that experience was, you know, really amazing. But whenever I'm like in it, I'm just like focused on, okay, I need to make sure it fits right. You know, is it everything they need? So a lot of that during that period, it's like we do fittings on set because she's filming, but I'm working with, you know, the costume designer directly and just trying to figure out how to perfect it. Sometimes one look requires like multiple duplicates and it has to be exactly the same because if it's a print and then, you know, it changes, if the placement changes, then it changes
you might have
the
some
print.
prints here and then it can't be here.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay.
So I never realized that until like going through this. And so that was amazing. And then just being able to work with, you know, like Savannah James was when we did a custom, her custom birthday dress for her 30th.
Oh, wow. So huge milestones.
Yeah. So,
wow.
But it's like, I think these little things that you never know who you will come across. And I was able to do that because her stylist at the time, we met through Instagram. She reached out and we just kind of developed a relationship. And, you know, so I feel like in that sense is you just never know who you'll meet. But when you do meet someone, it's like always give it your all, be yourself, be your authentic self, let them see who, you know, get to know you. And through that, they'll get to know the brand. So I feel like I've really had the blessing of just being able to encounter so many inspiring women. And through that, it molded me to be able to create more for more women, and that's kind of just what I want to keep doing. And
wow, that's amazing.
Were you able to tell your grandfather that?
No, he passed during COVID.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I think that like was kind of what it meant even more. It was just like, oh, like, you know, and even just with my parents, it was, you know, I feel like we're 10 years into the brand, and obviously I think when I started the brand, I thought we would be at a different place at this point. But there's been so many like almost
A
kind
pandemic?
of random milestone and pandemic things
Yeah.
happening. That's kind of like, there's so many things I feel so proud about.
Sure.
And it's brought me here. And
Yeah.
if those things didn't happen, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But Michelle was she's so humble and down to earth. So being able to create, and she was actually the one that recommended me directly to the show.
Wow.
Because there was a different costume designer. She's incredible, Joy. She was pulling pieces from my brand for American Born Chinese, which
Oh, yeah.
Michelle and Stephanie were both on.
Yeah.
So some of our pieces were on there. And when we had this cape, so actually these trousers, and we have this cape look, she saw a photo of it and she was like, Michelle would love this just for her. And then she was able to set a fitting. I fitted Michelle for that look. And Michelle was like, this is perfect for my next show. I'm going to send it. And she sent it. And then the next day I got a call from the costume designer and she was like, how do we need this? What's the process? And then from there, just the next few months, it was just creating looks for her for certain character role. If you watch the show, there's a period where, she just wears a sequence of just more fashionable outfit when she's the mom.
The boss lady look
boss
versus
lady.
the mom look. Yeah.
So the cape look, which started the whole thing, was the look she wore the fighting scene.
Yeah.
So she was flying and fighting, and so that was the outfit that. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I didn't
that
know
was
that was a custom. No, that's really cool.
seriously.
I just think it's fascinating. Whenever, because I always wondered what the journey would be like for someone in fashion, especially using your name. And I've always wondered, especially for you, was there a point where you're like, my name as the brand is, were you ever self-conscious about it? Or were you or was there a moment where you were like, this is it, was it a piece you sold or something that happened where you were like, this is it, I'm legit,
I don't know if I had the I'm legit moment. I feel like I never considered any other name. It was just always okay,
your
I'm just
name.
gonna put my name on it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of ownership. It's okay, so people know. I don't need to think about anything else. But in terms of kind of that big moment, it was, I guess, our first production run. It was our first collection. And at the time, I thought 150 pieces was not a lot. And then until I went to pick up the pieces and I just had racks of it was only 5 designs,
Yeah.
but over, 150 each. I was like, oh, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that was when I was and every piece had my name. It was okay, I think it was it was a eye-opening moment of wow, I'm really doing this. I need to sell these. I need to get people to wear this.
Dead
Real.
stock.
Going back now. So I guess that would kind of be that moment for me. And now I just see it as this brand it travels with me. As my life changes and as I go through different things, this brand is, going through it with me. I think in the beginning I felt more pressure of oh, it's a brand, it has to be this way. What you show outwardly, it has to maintain a certain aesthetic. And as I kind of went on more, it's just it's okay sometimes if I don't always say something or always post something or always share. The people who want to wear my pieces, they'll reach out. They know how to find me.
Yeah.
And if I'm at a point in my life where I just don't want to say much, then it's okay not to. But, if you go to my website, you'll see, I don't have any words on my website actually, other than make an appointment, but you just see, it's almost like a portfolio.
You let your work
See my
speak for
pieces.
itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at now. It's okay, this brand is my name, but this is also a part of me and my life.
Sure.
And so it has to kind of represent me and everything, my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa.
So if you had to describe the Vivian Chan aesthetic, you're wearing your brand right now, right? So what is the Vivian Chan aesthetic? If you had to explain it to potential customers or even two guys like us. Yeah.
I would say minimal, modern, very clean lines. Focused on fabrics. It's something that you can sit in your closet, and even through time, you can still grab it and feel relevant in it.
Yeah.
It's something that you can go to and you can feel confident and celebrated and beautiful in it. like uplifting. I think that's where it's like, I think it's a little different. It's like when I describe my clothes, I want it to be something that can celebrate you, that will uplift you, that will remind you of your worth. That's like a big thing, you know. I think clothes has the power to do that. You know, why do we put on pajamas if we're going to sleep? It's like it preps you fully to be in the mindset of like, hey, I'm gonna head towards rest. And I feel like when you put on that specific garment, it can have the same influence and effect, and it's very powerful. And so that's kind of what I want my brand to continue to stand for, which I honestly don't speak enough about. I'm more of just like, oh, like, you know,
well, that's why you're here. Right? You talk about it right here.
Yeah, so thank you guys for letting me talk about this.
Wow.
What I keep hearing you say is the word celebration. And that's such a beautiful message, because I think, especially in this day and age, like a lot of people might not feel like celebrating, or especially if you come from a more conservative background, you might not even feel like you deserve to celebrate yourself or the people around you. There's like kind of like a self-consciousness about it. So like, why is that like concept so big for you?
I just feel like there's something that comes to mind. It's like beauty in the broken, you know, like even no matter what season of life you're in, you know, there's something worth being grateful for. And I think whatever that is worth celebrating and making note of. And so even just with clothes, you know, with women, a lot of times it's like, you know, we go through a season, even with men, I mean, anyone. Sometimes if we don't feel good about our body, we feel less motivated to get dressed in certain things. And I think the beauty with clothes, and that's why when I say, you know, with my designs, it's a lot of like clean lines, minimal and modern, but in that sense, it's, you know, proportions. You know, there's a beauty with design where you can actually recreate proportions, you know, create new proportions, and clothes can help bring out or hide certain areas. But it doesn't
all
mean,
dark colors.
Yeah, like things like that. Like I think it doesn't mean, you know, you're afraid or you don't want to show a certain side, but I think it's just, you know, wear whatever makes you feel good at that time.
Yeah.
And that's what you should wear.
True.
It doesn't matter the occasion, like just put it on.
Celebration as a lifestyle.
Yes.
Not as like, oh, it's limited to certain occasions.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Not limited to certain locations.
Okay.
Occasions.
Great. I think like when it comes to how you, because as a mom, as someone that has a husband, like how does that factor into your whole process? Like, were there stages of like when Vivian Chan was single, the brand was like this. Like, Vivian Chan as a mom, it's like this.
I feel like not too obvious of a change. I feel like I just go to less events now with kids. My priorities kind of shifted. My brand always will be like my firstborn is how I see it. But now I do have 2 human babies too.
True.
That require my attention. So they obviously are my priority, and I love this moment of my life. But I mean, people ask me like, you know, what is your favorite design? Like, have you created something that is like your favorite thing? And I always tell people, and I feel like I have, and they're my kids. I love,
so sweet.
It sounds so cheesy, I know, but I feel like, you know, the kids are like one of the most intimate designs. It's like it's something that comes from love, comes from the 2 of you, but yeah, they stand for so much, and I learn so much from them. And so I'm on this journey, and, you know, now I'm like going on a slower pace where it's like, you know, kids first, mom, but my brand is also going through this with me. And while I was pregnant, it was like, you know, it allowed me to be inspired and create things that work for like the pregnant woman, where it's not called maternity clothes, but it works. So I'm like, okay, when I'm in this new stage of like womanhood, and I'm, you know, my body is changing, like, what does that mean? And so I never stopped creating in that sense. I just kept creating throughout these like big moments of my life.
Wow.
And then now with kids, it's like I made a little outfit for them, and like kind of it just challenged me creatively to do different things when I hit different milestones in life. And so bridal, obviously it was like, you know, when I got engaged, I mean, we've always done custom and stuff for clients before. We just never publicly shared about it. But, you know, going through being like a bride or being engaged, obviously it brought new new things stuck out to me. And so now we do bridal, but it's more like occasion wear. But I don't want to call it bridal, so it's really hard to like pinpoint the word on it. Yeah.
What does that mean? What's occasion wear?
It's just like for any occasion, you know. Occasion wear. Sorry. But
like
all
an event.
Yes. But
if you want
all
to
our
just go
pieces
out.
are in white. So when I come to the studio, I wanted them to see it as like a blank canvas. It can be anything because it's made to order.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So our bridal wear, it's not like gowns. It's a lot of separates. I want there to be, they can be a part of the process. So, you know, you can pick a top, but maybe you love another bottom because that fits your physique more. So you can pair with that bottom instead. But maybe you're not getting married. Maybe you have another event coming up, and we make it in another color for you. But you can still shop the styles because it should just be like a blank canvas for you to decide. You know, it can be anything.
I see the vision now where you're talking about celebration as a lifestyle, because that distinction of like, oh, not labeling it bridal, but making it occasion, like broad, and like that makes a lot of sense.
Yay.
I don't think, I think for men's, it's like definitely more like about suiting. So it's a little like formal wear for men. It doesn't really veer away that much.
Yeah.
So I can see that there's a lot of creativity in how you put your own sauce on it.
Yeah.
Right.
I tried to.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
How, as someone who likes to, you know, dress and be stylish, my question to you is, you know, as you've been on this journey being a mom, do you like dress differently now? Has your style changed much, or do you still try to like, you know, feel good about yourself when you just even go grocery shopping or get coffee or something like that?
I definitely do. I mean, there's definitely more moments where I have to remind myself of that. But functionality, I think, is one thing that I am a lot more mindful of. I do have to say, in the beginning, when I first started the brand, it was more about like what looks good, you know? And then now as mom, it's like, you know, where like functionality is such a big thing. Even just during COVID times too, you know, that was something I had to be more mindful of. You know, people couldn't go to drop off dry cleaning. So, you know, in terms of fabric selection, you know, being mindful of, can this be washed at home? Yeah, is it something comfortable they can wear at home, but after COVID, they'll still want to wear it and wear it outside the house.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the biggest part. Style-wise, since I do more pieces that are like for occasions, or I don't wear it every day, especially if I'm with kids.
Right.
I wear it more like when I'm out. But if I don't have my kids with me, I'll always wear my design.
Yeah.
Always kind of like, okay, what? And I sometimes, because my body has changed so much since having 2 kids, a lot of times it's like, okay, I have certain go-to outfits. Because but then even then, when I put certain ones on, sometimes I don't feel right in it, and I just need to go to the next one or try something else.
Yeah.
So
we were both at a mutual friend's send-off not too long ago, and I kid you not, when you walked in, I was like, wow, she is dressed way better than everyone else. But like, I think the way you did it was very much according to your ethos, where like it was layered but still very distinctive, where it's like the color palette, the drape, everything. Like half the people there were in hoodies, so it was like
It pains me to hear that. But
hey, LA winner, you know?
It is what it is.
But onto the more practical elements of just building your brand. For the manufacturing process, like there's so much going on in the world right now in regards to where things get made and how they're made. So like what is that process now, especially after the pandemic? I know you were saying that you were going to China like every month at least?
Every other month.
Yeah, every other month.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So like in 2016, I expanded the brand to China. One, I think because, you know, China was growing and expanding really fast. And so as like a Taiwanese American designer, I felt pulled in terms of like, okay, I want to be there. You know, I want them to see kind of what I have created. And so when we went there, everything happens really faster. And so immediately it was, you know, we got, you know, different accounts. And so I had to figure out manufacturing, but I wanted to separate manufacturing where my US clients, my stuff was still made in US for all my US clients. And so I had to look for a factory in China that would make, all the do production for all my China accounts. So honestly, I had to be there. It was just it was a sequence of just trial and error and just not being afraid to ask questions. I was familiar with like the fabric market. So it was, when I had to find a factory, it was just like not being afraid to ask, if people are going there to buy fabric, most likely they are coming from a factory.
Wow.
And so, you talk to some fabric vendors that you buy from all the time, and then you build a relationship with them. From there, they share some of their contact. From there, you kind of have to weed out, you visit different factories, you talk to them, build a relationship, you got to try it out. So it was honestly a lot of trial and error, and you just have to put your pride down, and you kind of just got to be present, be there, and get your hands dirty. To be honest, it's just I had to be at the factory doing QC myself. You can't, with things like that, it's like it takes a lot of time to develop someone to have the same like eye for quality, but it's like it's different when it's like your own thing. And so my quality standards are a little different from someone maybe that have just come on, or maybe someone at the factory. So in that case, you got to set the tone by being there yourself, building the relationship with them. And so that was maybe 3 to 4 years. And then when COVID happened, we closed. So that I could be here because I couldn't go back anymore. But that was such a big part of like my journey, just being able to share my brand with,
Yeah. Well, how did you test fabrics for like pilling? Because if you want quality, you're looking for, I don't know, like over time, is it going to look extra shitty and pilly? My parents had they had a dry cleaners. So growing up, I saw the brands like the suits or pants that would like be pilling all the time, or the ones where like, oh dang, it's like for after 6-10 years, it's still like taut and looks pretty solid.
Yeah.
Like, how do you QC that?
Well, before I expanded to China, we would do wear tests. So it's like we would make a sample first, and then I'll wear it to an event, or someone on my team will wear it to some event.
Okay.
We wear it a few times to see. We try washing, or how does it do in the wash. And so
like the most rough, like tumble dry, like the worst conditions, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Rolling around the mud and like
No, I was like, it's like cold and then air dry it. Sure, that's like the most delicate way. But I was like, I wonder if you just put it on like high heat and just like put it on high tumble dry and see how it looks. Like, is that the way to do it?
Yeah. So then it's like, and these are some stuff we learned in school. It's like, testing shrinkage and calculating the shrinkage. But then, with my own brand, it was, if it's silk, then obviously we can't. But if, all the other fabrics, we'll try it in the washer. Take measurements before, try in the washer, measure after, see if there's any shrinkage going on there. And then we know how to create our, the care label accordingly. But in China, actually, and this was something new I had to learn, one of our accounts was big there in shopping malls. So shopping malls, they have higher standards, and they have very strict kind of terms of what you need to do in order for your pieces to qualify to be able to be accepted. Wow. And one of them was fabric tests. So before you can even buy the fabric, you have to submit all of your fabric to a company that will run all of these testings on the fabric. It could, like the dye, like does it bleed, the pilling, the wash test, all of that. And so if it passes, then you can use fabric. If not, you have to find something else. So that was like I was like, oh, I wish.
That's really convenient.
Exactly. But that was something great that I was able to learn in that whole process. And so it caused, like, I went into it not knowing you had to do that. So when I first went, I was like, oh, what? It kind of
extra time.
Exactly, extra time. You have to have backup. If it doesn't work out, then but it kind of just protects you in the long run. Yeah. Everyone in the long run. So it's worth the work. Putting in the work. But yeah, so that's something that can be done.
Okay. Well, where's Vivian Chan pieces made? Where are they made now? Yeah.
So since we don't do ready to wear anymore, everything's made to order. I have a sample maker, a sewer. She's been with me for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Very familiar with my brand. She knows my quality standards. So every piece that my client wears is made by her. Wow. So it's, you know, I work very closely with her. So even throughout the process, like I always check in on her, just to make sure everything is fine. Put in, you know, it's honestly, every piece is like made with love, time and love. You know,
it's one of a kind too.
Yes, it's one of a kind. And everything, I measure my clients. So I guess what the experience that's different with us is, most of the places when you shop for bridal, you have to do alterations on your own outside. You find it outside. But with us, I measure you, and all our prices, everything, it includes alterations. So the moment you leave my door, your garment is ready to wear for your big day. I don't want them to have to stress about it, you know, and I don't want you to take alterations anywhere else, because no one knows this outfit more than me, you know, in terms of how it should look on you.
Right.
So I don't want to cause more headache for the bride when it's their big day coming up. And so, yeah, so it's all inclusive in that sense. And so I'm just very focused now on the experience. And I love it because I can create for the one rather than for the mass. And I can create for the one and for this one big moment. And it's just it's really beautiful and intimate. And I just enjoy it so much of just getting to know them. Cause you spend, you know, it's maybe like at least 6 months, you know, you see them and you talk to them throughout this time. They come over for fittings. It's a very intimate experience. You know, I have my sewer with me sometimes, so we talk about fixes. I'm just always making sure that they feel good in it. Like going back to look at, you know, how are they looking at themselves in this outfit? Is there something they're not? But allowing them to feel comfortable to bring up anything that they're not happy with, because that's why we're there, you know?
Yeah. Do you ever feel like you have to play therapist when you're getting to know them, or, you know, is it a lot like that? Because I would imagine it's, I don't know, it comes up. It's like, I don't know about, you know, I don't know how I feel about this, you know?
I'll try to ask them about like how wedding planning is going. In that sense. Yeah. So a lot of times I think it's a lot more stressful than people think. It weighs a lot on the bride because they want, of course, everything
perfect
to be perfect. And so I think because I want them to feel open to share about things and know it's a safe space in that sense. Like I have no one to tell, but offload here so you can leave feeling lighter as well. But then at the same time, I think when I hear everything that they share, I also just am reminded of like, oh, I want to make sure this outfit is perfect. So at least with what they're wearing, they can feel excited about it. Like at least leading up to today, they know they don't have to worry about this piece, which is such a big part as well. But they also feel excited and look forward to, you know, putting it on so that it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day.
This is giving very fairy godmother Cinderella, Princess Diaries, where like it's a makeover, but it's also like life lessons. Like it's a really involved process. I think I'm learning a lot just from having this conversation.
Yeah, it seems like you, not only do you feel very deeply and you're empathetic, but you seem to draw your energy and strength and like all of your like momentum from that well.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I mean, I could relate to it a little bit. I'm not a fashion designer. I work in music.
Yeah.
But being able to create that well, you know, having connection, leveling with people, getting to know their story, sharing your story a little bit with each other is like the perfect place to draw energy from. And then you use that to create the final piece.
Yes.
And in one sense, what's interesting about music compared to like fashion, with music, the journey or the process is really it's one of the best times and places you can really control things. Because once you create everything, once you're done with the final product, it's just kind of off. You have to release it. It's off on its own.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Is it similar with like?
I feel like, you know, my baby is each garment. Your baby is probably each song.
Each song. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But once it's done, you have to let it go.
Yeah.
And you can't hold on to it. Yeah. You could see how they react or feel in their piece. And that is something that, you know, gives you reassurance or satisfaction or contentment. But really outside of that, it's just theirs.
So much is out of your control.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Control, you're launching the rocket.
Yeah.
A song or a dress.
Yeah.
Are there any future plans of maybe getting into menswear or anything or children's?
She's like, nah, don't bother me.
Come on, talking about this, talking this nonsense.
No plans for men. Okay. I do like kind of style guys on the side. I've taken on some project in that sense, or like if I have a bride and, you know, their groom, they don't know what to wear. I'm I'm happy to assist in that sense. And I would probably do children's wear before I do men's, but it wouldn't be
Last thing on earth.
Yeah, there's always going to be children.
And there's just so much to explore with women, and women, they always are kind of looking for the next thing. It's like retail therapy to me is real, and so in that sense, it's there's just still so much room for me to grow in this space.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to just keep going at it, and then with like even what you were saying about like baby, it's like now I have real babies, and so the biggest thing you can do is just you gotta be present and be there during this time that you have with them, because once they leave this space, it's out of your control.
True.
So you have to just kind of instill in them kind of, the root of what you want them to carry outside. So for them, it's like, when you hear music, when it's out of the room and once it's out in the world, it's just from hearing your voice and like if it sparks, being able to hear your authenticity through the voice and all that.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with like my clothes.
Yeah.
Once it exits, I hope every time they go back to it, they're reminded of the experience they had with me, and that they can always go back to that. And that goes back to, why I do bridal and I do a lot of separates, because I want them to be able to wear the pieces after their wedding. And it's something they can be reminded of this special day. And it's like the biggest, kind of, like souvenir almost from your wedding, because you can wear it in your daily life. You can.
Is that considered a success for you then? Like if someone has a piece that they obviously love for their big day, the wedding, but they wear it again on another occasion. Is that like a big
Job well
win?
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling from you.
Huge.
Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
imagine like, of course for the one day, it's tight, it's good. But if it's good enough to wear for another party, I'm sure that, okay, cool.
Definitely.
It's
Nice.
not like the top of the wedding cake where you save it for a year later.
Yeah.
and
Or you just look at it and
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's, I wish we could go back to that. No, I wanted to like be carried with them through this new chapter.
evergreen. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you were asking me like, like in terms of milestones, I feel like every garment I get to create for any customer is a milestone for me, just that they can, that I get to create for them and that they chose and want something from my, collection and want my design out of everything they could have picked. And so I think I really take that to heart in terms of wanting them to enjoy this process with me. Because I'm grateful. Yeah.
For sure.
Oh.
Before we wrap up, are there particular, like one or two stories that really stick out about you dressing someone and like it left a deep impression on you? I'm sure there's a lot of sob stories and where it's like people see themselves differently when they put on Vivian Chan.
My mom is one. Almost pretty much every birthday, I'll try to make her something new for her to wear.
What a good daughter.
Dang.
I can't think of a single thing that like is equal to that I do for my parents.
Yeah, not.
But yeah, my mom,
stellar.
she's always kind of been like my biggest muse. And so in terms of just the piece, I always want to kind of make her proud, but I also want it to be something she can wear again. And it's not like, I don't want it to be a piece where it's just her promoting my brand, like, to be able to say like, I can wear my daughter, but I think it's more of just, okay, I think about like, oh, what has she been wearing more of? Like, what does she feel, comfortable in? What doesn't she have yet? What hasn't she seen from me? So kind of every year around that time, I ask myself that, and I kind of, approach it very, genuinely. And in that sense. Another one, Michelle, we talked about that. That definitely stuck. I guess another big, something that will always stick is like, particularly with a client, it was a different case. It was like, her wedding was coming up, I think in less than 6 months. And she is this incredible artist. Her name is Jeanette. She came when I was like literally on my, I think eight or ninth month of being pregnant with my daughter.
About to pop.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And we had a call, and it was just one of those things. Like I haven't met her yet, but there was a mutual respect and understanding. And she's an artist too, so I would like kind of felt the pressure. It was like she's seen so much, like I want to make sure I deliver for her. But she had a skirt she bought. She went shopping, she couldn't find anything, but she found a skirt she loved, but she didn't love the top that went with it. So she was like, "Can we come up with something?" And I was like, "Yes," and from there it was like I had to give birth. And then we kind of, there was a little bit, but I was like, oh, I want to make sure, I didn't forget. I'm still working on it. And literally after I gave birth, and the next time I saw her, my daughter was born already. And I just had a piece that honestly, I felt like I dreamt up. It was just like, I didn't know how to draw it. So I think that was the thing. It's like, I can draw, but I can't draw as well as what I can imagine and dream. So sometimes I have to just make it. And to show them in that way. And I draw after. So with her, she kind of just always was so trusting of me in the whole process. So I didn't even show her any sketch. It was just that I was like, hey, I'd love to have you over for a fitting. I have something I created. And so I had the piece on on the dress form when she came in. And my daughter had to join me because I was alone with her. And she loved it. And it was just one of the things where it was like that mutual trust. And that really stuck to me because that's kind of like the dream client, that dream partnership. But it's also someone who is creative. So you really feel that mutual respect for each other and what you do. And then from there, she wore it and it was amazing. And that was, but she trusted, believed in, she was willing to still put her trust in me even when I literally was about to pop and I felt so nervous that I wasn't able to deliver the full experience for her.
Yeah.
But it ended up being amazing. So I named that piece after her actually.
Wow.
And it's a part of my collection now.
What's it called?
Jeanette. It's just like a Jeanette corset top, and it's just a one piece of fabric that wraps continuously to the back, and there's just there's pleating and pin tucks.
Okay.
Ooh, I have a question that came from the is it ever insulting if someone's gives you an inspo of some other designer and they're like, make it like this? And it's like, why are you coming to me then? Go to her or him.
I feel like it depends. Yes, we get that a lot. Not insulting. I think it depends on their intent. It's like, is this, a mood board of things that you gravitate towards, that you love, the vibe of?
Yeah, that's fair.
But I also have clients where maybe they, hey, are you able to make this? This is exactly what I want. And in those cases, I always kindly reject in terms of maybe I think you can just find a dressmaker. There are people out there who can just make exactly what you need.
Okay.
But if that's what you're looking for, then it's not here. But a lot of times I do appreciate when a client, if they're looking for custom design, to come with some kind of vision board almost of what stands out to them.
Yeah.
So then for me, I get to look at it and I get an idea of okay, there's, I look for pattern. It's okay, there's a pattern of, you seem to like, this shape or, like this. And so it gives me a good starting point of creating something for them.
You're looking for collaboration.
Yeah, I want them to feel included because ultimately it's for them.
Yeah.
So it needs to it has to represent them and it has to have their DNA as much as mine as well.
Seems like you're good at making connections, connecting the dots between seeing the through
Finding
line.
relations.
Yeah, that's cool.
Birth to people and dresses. Collaborative process.
Oh, dang, I'm so good. Yeah.
Well, Vivian Chan, it was a pleasure and truly an educational experience for us to have
Honestly,
you on the podcast.
Oh,
We have a gift for you.
What?
First season guests all get one of these.
really?
Maybe it'll
I
go.
love caps.
Okay, well,
I
perfect.
wear
then.
it on, when I'm, mom life.
Let's go.
There you go.
Yay!
Okay.
I love this.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Nice. It looks good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And then we always have 3 questions. That we'd like to end up.
Yes. So question number 1 is where do you consider home? Where is home?
Home is where my family, my kids are. That's what comes to mind first.
If you had to lock down a physical place.
Taiwan.
Okay, so that's where you consider home. Okay.
Not
I
Arcadia,
miss Taiwan.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, Arcadia might as well be Taiwan.
Yeah, but I think for me it's a lot more of people. It's
Yeah.
my parents, my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, in Taiwan, then, if you were visiting with friends, is there a food spot that you're like, we must go here? Do you have a few?
Yes.
Every Taiwanese person must have a few.
Well, I was born in Taichung. My mom, she
That's middle
grew
of
up.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
Just to clarify. Yeah.
She grew up in Fengyuan. Have you been to Fengyuan?
Where is Fengyuan?
I don't really know. I'm horrible with maps or like
Somewhere
anything.
on the island. Okay. Yeah.
But it's closer to Taichung. It's close to Taichung.
So
you can drive from Taichung. Yeah.
Central Taiwan. Yeah.
And there's like street vendors by like a temple.
Yeah.
And they have the best. I always go down the road and I eat every single day. Like red bean shaved ice, Vawan.
Oh, so these are classic Central Taiwanese
classic
cuisines.
Taiwanese, street food.
Yeah.
I always go there every time, and I eat everything.
Sounds delicious.
Yes.
And last question: what is currently a song or an artist that you're just listening to right now in rotation? Just right now. It doesn't need to be all time. Just current.
I always go to. Okay, so when I'm in my studio, my go-to like radio or station playlist is like the Yuna playlist.
Oh, okay.
I go to that
from Malaysia, right?
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
I always go. I love the channel,
Nice.
just all of her songs, and then chill jazz playlist has also been something I love. When I don't
that.
want like
Very chic.
Yeah,
Very
I know, very elegant.
And is that what you play when
with
clients
appointments.
are in?
Yeah.
Okay. That.
Great vibe, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if people wanted to find out more about you and your brand and all the things you do, how can people find you online?
You can find us on Instagram, VivianChan_official. We don't post a lot at the moment, but you can find me there, and on our website, VivianChan.com. And you can email us there and reach us there too. So.
Okay.
Amazing. Again, pleasure, and yeah, we
Thank
look forward
you
to
guys
seeing
for
more
having
creations.
me.
Yeah, this has
absolutely.
been great. Thanks for being
Appreciate it
here.
a lot.
All right, folks. Peace.
All right, that's it. Bye.